Welcome to Analyze and Educate. If you don't know who I am, I'm Pat Ruffino. And the reason why I do this fancy intro is because I just felt like switching it up. But without further ado, for our third consecutive year, I think we're doing QB rankings. And guys, this year I'm in my house. So I'm very pumped to do this from the comfort of my own home. I'm wearing shorts, so it's much nicer. And we just wrapped up week 1 of QB play and just UFL play in general. First time in a while, Birmingham Stallions lose. They usually don't do that, so that's always a fun thing to check out. In addition to Memphis Showboats, a little bit more competitive. Shane Harris getting his first win with the DC Defenders as a head coach. In addition to Luis Perez and company taking care of business with, by the way, Holton Ahlers, most efficient QB in pro football history, 3 plays, 3 touchdowns. Davion Smith treading his way up a non-existent leaderboard of spring football running backs. I don't know. I am tracking that, as you guys know. But without further ado, guys, let's get down to these quarterback rankings. If you're new here, please subscribe, leave a comment, see where I've jacked up my rankings and whatnot. But guys, a couple honorable mentions. I believe we saw 14 quarterbacks actually play snaps, with 11 of them throwing a pass. And let's get to it with our our honorable mentions. Is this trio of young men? Holton Ahlers, we talked about him making his 2025 debut. Max Duggan making his professional debut during a regular season game, and Mike DeLeo. Guys, very efficient Holton Ahlers. 3 plays, they run a T formation, get it to Davion Smith. We might hear Holton talk about that a little bit later on the old podcast and whatnot. Max Duggan coming in, being a part of one of the best plays in UFL history with Javion Howard. Javion Howard also getting a 75-yard touchdown on his, but Duggan did all right himself. He 3 carries, 12 yards, no pass attempts. We were told that we were going to see a 2 QB system. We didn't see it, but we did see both quarterbacks play, and congrats to Max. You are a professional quarterback in a regular season game. Also, last guy in the last game of the week 1 contest, Mike DeLeo from Austin Peay. Good to see Mike dressing as QB2, showing some development. He was a late signing last year, in which he was brought in after DeAndre Francois getting hurt and coming in to run the ball once, -2 yards and whatnot. So nothing too sexy from Mike, but he did get a nice shout out by the announcers calling him a Tim Tebow-esque player, which, despite everything that Tebow has done or not done, pretty good, decent career and life for Mr. Timothy Tebow. To start off our official rankings, our number 11 quarterback this week of the Houston Roughnecks was Anthony Brown. Now, a lot of people, they're always touting some of these NFL bounce backs up. Anthony Brown goes 5 of 11, 21 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, 1 carry for 20. Nothing really too sexy from Anthony. Looked really, really uncomfortable. First game playing since 2024 preseason, and in addition to playing his start in 2022 as well with the Baltimore Ravens. Looked really unprepared. Just no shot of success with that offensive line. Wasn't as mobile as a lot of people would think. Probably not the best prepared as far as with the game planning as well, based off the interactions we see from the Houston sideline. There's no end in sight. And I personally, and this isn't a shot on Anthony Brown, I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I kind of rank him in the back end to the middle of the pack as far as starters in the UFL and spring football. But I do personally believe that you got to roll with Nolan Henderson, who we'll talk a little bit more about, because that offensive line gives nobody a shot. My number 10 quarterback this week, it's nothing against his play. I actually think he played pretty well, but based off the sample size and the effectiveness of his cohort, is Danny Etling. Etling came in. They ran a 2 quarterback system. He goes 4 of 6 for 30 yards, 2 carries for 15 yards. Really liked what he did at the end of the half, showing a lot of grit, yielding some penalties as well to move the chains and whatnot. Had him as my preseason number 13. I kind of figured that Bryce Perkins would take the role, as we've seen. But regardless, Etling actually is, like with many of these teams, capable of starting. You like to see him in the 12-man, 10-man league, getting the majority of the reps, but that's not how this shook out for him. Really, really, really excited about what they kind of do with Etling. The problem is I've seen some people on social media say that, oh, they need to trade him to the Houston Roughnecks. Man, I don't care who the number one quarterback is. If you're on the Roughnecks, you're having a bad time, my dude. And Michigan's got a good one, and they got someone in the waiting with Rocky Lombardi if he chooses to stick around as well. But Etling played pretty well, given the opportunities. Continue kind of this trend of Michigan quarterbacks continuing to put it together capable play under Mike Nolan, and we'll see what happens on the flip side with him. Our number 9 quarterback this week is going to be Nolan Henderson of the Roughnecks. Had him as my number 10 preseason, and he goes 7 of 18, 68 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 4 carries for 54 yards. That offensive line is terrible. It looked like it lacked effort. There's a lack of effort all around, both on the offensive and defensive side. But you got a guy like Henderson, continues to grind, continues to make this team semi-competent and semi-competitive, and that's because he's athletic. I'm curious to see what he would look like in a team that actually had an offensive line that could move their feet, drop their hips, and actually give him competent play. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Eric Price knows how to call an offense. I don't think CJ Johnson knows how to manage a team. But in a league that's kind of being hit by the coaching bug of all these guys leaving and whatnot, you kind of got to kick CJ around and keep him there because he's available. And the best ability is availability. But it wouldn't be nice to see Tom Cable kind of get his guys in there and kind of build some sort of culture, because right now there is none. And, I know he's not the highest character guy in the world, especially because people still owe money or something like that. And to be honest, I don't care if he sees this because Mark Thompson, whatever. But it was funny to see Mark Thompson kind of throwing jabs. And one thing I thought was hilarious was Mark talking about how CJ is going to go into that meeting on Monday and just talk about his time with the Saints. It's like, man, just put the fries in the bag. Let's move on, homie. My number 8 quarterback this week, Troy Williams. Oh, man, I was high. For a little bit, and then it all just kind of nothingness. Didn't utilize his legs the way I know he can. 8 of 11, 104. No touchdowns, 1 pick. Really wanted to see him utilize his legs a little bit more. I get what he was trying to do at the end of the game, but you got to know the down distance and situation. Live the fight another down. And when you throw a touchdown to the other team, that's not doing it. Do I think the offensive line play is great? No, EJ Perry showed us they're not that great either. But if you play within the system, I think they're able to kind of make some noise in the UFL. I just don't know if that's much of an improvement from a 2-8 season, but definitely a 4-win capable team. I mean, you play Houston twice, so there's 2 wins there. Sneak one out against Michigan, maybe a Week 10 game or something like that. I don't know, but regardless, not a bad spot to be in. There's a lot to like in Memphis. Way more competitive than you think. If the Brahmas can't figure it out, man, they might sneak that 4th or 5th win, but between Troy and EJ, I think EJ gives you a higher upside. His arm strength looked a lot better, EJ's was, than Troy, but definitely not a guy who should be on the outside looking in of this league. Definitely a very competent quarterback and seems like a pretty good guy based off the conversations I've had with him. My number 7 quarterback going into week 2, Kellen Mond. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Brahmas fans. I'm looking at you right now. Relax. 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 It's going to be okay. Now, do I think you guys win 8 games, 7 games? No, I don't. But I think there's going to be enough cannibalization in the XFL conference this year that you guys can sneak in with a 5-5 and 6-4. I don't know. Mond, in my opinion, kind of just looked like he needed to get hit in the face once or twice. He hasn't played in a preseason game since 2023. He hasn't played in an NFL game since 2021. Let him kind of roll with the punches. And I think the best thing they did was let him do that. They didn't go to Kevin Hogan, and whatnot. They just kind of let Mond deal with it. And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes these guys need to kind of just grind through the bad stuff, the adversity. CJ Johnson, I'm talking to you. and kind of just let them play out. Now, there were some bad throws, but he's got a really good connection, in my opinion, with Jacob Harris, wide receiver out there, former LA Ram. And I think if they can utilize Anthony McFarland in that passing game a little bit, they'll be able to kind of ruffle some feathers as the season goes on. But I give Mond at least 5 games to figure it out. A little bit of QB drama, though. Mike Honesi, being signed off the street. Where's Jarrett Guantano? I don't know. Don't really care. But Mike Honesi, man, he's an athletic guy. Used to be a punter, was working out as a wide receiver at one point, had a stint in rookie minicamp with the Dallas Cowboys. That might be a guy to keep an eye on if things start looking bad. My number 6 QB this week is EJ Perry. Now, he was the QB1. They were switching out every couple plays. Every series. Wasn't really keen on it. He goes 10 of 17, 93, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 3 carries for 7 yards. Don't get too caught up on his rushing total because that boy was moving around, avoiding sacks. He kind of dealt with a couple bad drops. I believe one was the Eli Stowe. But when you got Jonathan Adams on your team, you're going to be able to make some plays. Had a good red zone situation in which they were able to score. I could see him being a riser, getting into that 2 or 3 area some weeks. But Memphis proved to be extremely competitive. I had Perry as my number 5 QB this week. I'd like to see them kind of ride with one of these guys a little bit more, but I found Perry to be the more competent QB. Really liked him on his RPO rollouts. TJ Veneri did a good job calling the game. It's just, are they the most talented team out there? Absolutely not. But, a lot of fight for interim head coach Jim Turner, who, gets the first one out of the way. It wasn't the best game probably from a scheme perspective, but in the end, really liked what they did, really kept it competitive, and that score's a lot closer. That game is a lot closer than the score dictates. Pain. Nothing but pain. My back hurts for this young man. Alex McGough, number 1 ranked QB coming in, number 1 ranked player coming in, goes 10 of 23 for 89 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 8 carries for 84 yards. This guy cannot get a break, dude. Straight up, we're seeing a lot of bad offensive line play from the Birmingham Stallions. My personal opinion, they need to shore up those tackle spots. A lot of pressure. Does DC have a good defensive line? Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to show that tape to my kids on Monday. However, you can't really do much when you're avoiding tackles every play. And, they're bringing pressure off the edge. Do I think that's a Greg Williams scheme thing? Yeah, 100%. The guy's, no risk it, no biscuit. I think they needed to take a couple more shots down the field. We saw a lot of single high, a lot of man on the outside and whatnot. They were trying to do a lot of rub routes and mesh and stuff like that. Really couldn't have enough time to really read that. I think it could work personally, but McGough has shown that he is still an athlete, 84 rushing yards. A couple of those were called back, so he probably had over 100. However, if you got guys in your face coming everywhere, it ain't going to work out for you, man. Poor guy got beat up all Sunday, and the fact that they were able to still maintain some sort of competitive balance there, only being down by 7, I don't know. But right now, not looking good. McGough drops 4 spots. My number 4 QB this week, the Spring King, Luis Perez. Preseason, I am number 2, 20 of 25, 164, 2 carries for 18 yards. Looked a lot more mobile back there. However, just kind of managed the game. Didn't do too many crazy things. Had one nice pass called back that would have put him over 200, but he was he's past the line of scrimmage. I think he could have got that first down if he ran for it personally. Perez really managed the game. There's not much else to say. Kalen Balaj really stepped up. Almost had a touchdown. Isaiah Winstead was just an inch or two away, but nothing really to comment. Very even keel, commanded the huddle, read his reads pretty well, very efficient. I believe that's an 80% completion percentage, and puts together a very slightly above average game. He gets our number 4 ranking of the week. Number 3 this week, Jordan Teamu was our number 3 QB coming into 2025. Personally, it looked a lot like he's putting the team on his back. I really think they need to implement DeLeo or some sort of RPO option there to take off some pressure. Abram Smith getting going, taking a minute to kind of find his footing. Only quarterback this week to go over 200 yards. Nice little implement of Deion Jackson there, carrying the ball 10 times for 42. Smith 3 times for 37. They added Chris Rowland on some sweeps with, he had 2 carries for 8 yards, lost 4 yards on one play. He had a long of 12. Really want to see Te'amu a little bit more mobile. Did a good job of avoiding pressure. I think he was only sacked once. Obviously, that completion percentage under 50%. But regardless, over 200 yards, was able to push the ball downfield, starting to get a lot more comfortable towards the end of the game, was able to get him into the red zone several times, and obviously has the biggest statistic, which is a win. Our biggest riser of the 2025 season so far, going from preseason ranking of 16 to now number 2 this week, Manny Wilkins, 17 of 22, 189 passing yards, 8 carries, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. We knew Manny can work with his legs. Got out of trouble a lot, was able to continue to keep his eyes downfield. I do think he's doing a better job of reading coverages and whatnot and going through his progressions, but he's still taking off. Granted, 3 years in the system, at some point you expect this thing to pop. It did. He took care of business in Houston. They win 31-6. However, I do worry as the defenses get a little bit more complex, how does Wilkins adapt? He did a good job of finding the tight ends, 2 of them, each one had a reception. Him and Darby have a really good connection, so that's something to be very excited about. There is this guy named Hakeem Butler, and you get real excited for him. 0 catches this week. They went a lot in the short game with Ja'Cory Pearson. I think he had almost 70 yards receiving. He had over 100 all-purpose. But overall, clean game from Wilkins. First start this year, 3rd start in his professional career. That's all you can ask. And guess what? He's got a winning record, which is more than what most people could say. Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt right now in week 1? As I'm making these rankings, I was like, if any one of these quarterbacks could go over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, they were going to get the number 1 ranking. I was even at halftime thinking I'd give it to McGough if he can get over 50 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. But I couldn't. And that's because Bryce Perkins was the best quarterback this week. Really pumped to see that. I had him as my number 4. This isn't a sleeper or anything like that. Despite kind of playing with both, him and Etling, still managed to go 16 of 19, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 6 carries, 14 yards for a touchdown. One of the most dynamic plays out there as far as him scoring. Really pumped about it. Really, really great play by him. Breaking tackles and whatnot. They're way more athletic than anyone on the Showboats defense, and he proved it time and time again, avoiding tackles, avoiding sacks, able to find his players down the field. Really did a good job of managing the RPO game as well. When you got a guy like Bryce Perkins on your team, you could really push Birmingham. Do I think have the overall talent to make a push for the championship? Yeah, actually, you know what, I do. Do I think Birmingham figures it out? Yeah, because guess what? They always have. You're 32-5, 32-4 over the last 3+ seasons. You got something in the back. And when you have Case Cook and Matt Corral as your backups, you got some options at the quarterback position. Regardless, that doesn't matter because they had a hard-fought game against the Memphis Showboats. Perkins proved that he can run this RPO system. Marcel Belfier is doing a great job of implementing pretty much whatever he needs to do to put his quarterbacks in position to succeed. He's done it with all 4 guys who have started from Lewerke to Etling to Perkins to EJ Perry. Those guys succeed, and they are 8-4 with Belfier as their offensive coordinator. And it's really nothing, no surprise. If you've been watching the games, you know that this is business as usual. And I suspect we'll see Bryce Perkins once again, at least throughout the season, as a top 4 quarterback, because as soon as he's able to figure it out, pushing the ball downfield, they didn't really utilize COC Mariner as much as they could, and that's my sleeper of the year right there. However, really good game from Perkins, very efficient, and once they even add some of that tight end love in there with Hicatini and Gunnar Oaks, get those guys about 25, 30 receptions, you're going to see a real nice stat line for Perkins at the end of the year. And without further ado, those are our quarterback rankings for the 2025 season. Starting out, going into week 2, who did I mess up on? Who needs to be number 1? Who needs to be the last guy? Shout out to all the quarterbacks that went out there this week, playing hard, doing what they need to do, making their money. Football is back. UFL season is back. No matter what, we're getting games. We're getting to see pretty decent quarterback play. And guys, it's only going to get better, especially when they figure out some of these left tackles and right tackles. Because the issue to me isn't the quarterback play. The issue to me is the offensive line play. But guys, if you're, once again, thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Extremely grateful to be doing this. I'm extremely grateful to be doing QB rankings for my 3rd consecutive year. And you guys like these videos. I love doing them. So leave a comment, like I said, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.